And we're back. Welcome to bonding time, guys. Here are my co-hosts, starting with
I'll start out. Patrick. Ramon Patrick.
And I'm just Chris.
No, no,
come
this
over to
cannot
the
be.
dark side, buddy. Come over to the
Nope.
dark side. And
Greenwich.
then we have
Christopher.
oh,
Greenwich.
you flipping wheel mother.
Hutchinson, David Hutchinson.
And I am just John. All right, so tonight we have the first of the Timothy Dalton movies, um, The Living Daylights. This was his first movie, and this movie was made in 1987. We're done with the Roger Moore movies. What did you think, Chris?
So I'll go for the, I guess, opening scene and then titles.
Sure.
For the opening scene, I thought it was really, really good, interesting. We're at the Gibraltar military base, and you're wondering what's going on. There's some betrayal going on. And then Bond chases after this assassin. I thought the chase scene was really good, really well done. And then in the end, when Bond, I think, what does he do? Does he I feel like he lands on somebody's yacht or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
and she's and there's a lady on it. And she's like, "Who are you?" Now, I felt how he delivered his line, James Bond. I kind of actually thought that was flat, and terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't like how he delivered that James Bond line. But I like the opening credits, good action, and now you're introduced to a new Bond. And the opening credits, I like the song, "The Living Daylights."
I'm a fan as well.
Huh?
I'm a fan as well.
Yeah. It's not a bad song. I think it's like middle of the road in terms of like theme songs, and I think the graphics were all right. Nothing to write home about. So, yeah, okay start to the movie. What do you guys think?
What do you think, Ramon?
I'm gonna go next. I like that it was a part of the entire movie. So, it started out. We start with the idea, and then we have a proper detective movie coming all the way through.
Right.
So it did relate to the story, which is always great. I'm gonna agree with Chris. Timothy is not the best at delivering smooth lines or, playing out the cap when it happens. But
Right.
it's a new Bond, so we play it by ear. Opening credits, like Chris said, I actually like the opening song. Middle of the road opening song for Bond, but one of the higher middle tier ones. Not a fan really of the credits. They were just okay.
Yeah.
And with the song, with a Bond song like that, if you want to have an okay Bond song, just liven up the credits a little bit.
Yeah.
Aside from that, pretty good stuff. Solid opening.
Yeah, I I liked the opening a lot. I thought it was interesting. Love skydiving stunts. So starts from jumping out of an airplane, then they land on the island. Clearly, the other 00 agents suck, and
Yeah.
James Bond is the only competent one. That's why we never got a 00 spinoff.
Doesn't somebody land in a tree when they're trying to?
Yeah, yeah.
And they just played it off too. Oh my god.
But I liked it. Another thing that I liked was the fact it is very refreshing seeing Timothy Dalton in the role, a younger Bond. Roger Moore, even in his first couple of movies, never really did his own stunts. So seeing Timothy Dalton on top of the van doing his own stunts, like you believe that that's James Bond doing that Timothy Dalton is doing these things, because a lot of the time it was him, like he was on top of a moving van. He loved doing his own stunts. He was known for that.
So that's actually one of the questions I had, because I actually, as far as the action went, I kind of noticed that, and I wondered how much of that is him. Like, how much of it is him, like, really being there. I'd really like to know the stunts that he did and the stunts that he, didn't do.
Yeah, he did a lot.
Because in the end with the plane as well, I was kind of interested in like
If
how
he
that
actually
went
did
down.
that.
Like
So
not just if he actually did it, but like the whole constructing that scene. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting.
So how they did that scene, first of all, that is actually one of the most dangerous stunts they've ever done. You
Right.
wouldn't think so based off like the other stunts they've done.
No,
Like
I
in
would think so.
Autopsy, they were fighting on top of a plane, but in
Yeah.
this one, what made it so dangerous is that like there was the scene where the guy's flapping and it flaps and he like is getting pulled back like he
Yeah.
could easily have hit
I
his head,
saw that.
right?
Yeah.
And
And if he
he's
got
not
hit,
wearing a helmet.
and
If he knocked himself out, that's it.
He's dead.
Mm.
Yeah. There's
And
no like catching him in the air.
it's pretty crazy. Timothy Dalton did the back projection stuff for that,
Yeah.
but I remember he was even saying like you don't realize how much strength it takes to be James Bond, because the scenes where he was hanging onto
Right.
the rope, like he was commending the stuntman because he was doing it just in a set, like hanging there for a while
Yeah.
and acting and doing like the punches and stuff, and is like he was so sore after. So to be holding on for dear life, and if you let go, you're screwed. Well, not always screwed. You have a parachute, but still, yeah. The stunts in
Who
this movie were pretty incredible.
I genuinely, so looking at a lot of those things, and I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, he's falling out of a plane, but he has a parachute, it's fine. But I'm thinking to myself, if I were in that scene and something went wrong, I would be so stunned that I don't know if I would be able. I mean, like, it's not my job, but I don't know if I would be able to recover enough to be like, okay, now I open my parachute and I'm safe and like I land safely and whatnot. That would fuck me up for sure.
Yeah.
But those action scenes were pretty cool. I enjoyed that part of it. Anyway,
Oh, for
we're
sure.
going on to the
Well, I was just saying it was refreshing seeing Timothy Dalton in the role.
yeah.
I don't quite agree. It is a common complaint on Timothy Dalton's delivery of comedy and stuff and lines, but I think that's by design. He's not trying to be smooth. He's not trying to be smooth like Roger Moore or Sean Connery.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
He,
thought he was playing James Bond. What? What?
it's
yeah,
true. It's absolutely
but
true.
What?
here's the difference is that Timothy Dalton, when he was preparing for the role, he read all of the Ian Fleming books. He
Okay.
is, out of all of the actors, I would say
Try to best portray the character.
he is the most true to the James Bond character out of all of them. When I look
Okay.
at all the actors that have played him as well, I believe Timothy Dalton the most. Like how Timothy Dalton plays James Bond. If James Bond was a real secret agent, like a real person, he would be like Timothy Dalton. Not like Daniel Craig, not like Sean Connery, not like Roger Moore. In real life, I think Timothy Dalton is the most believable.
I hear
I
we're
don't know if I believe that.
No, I hear where
Yeah,
he's coming from. He has a point, right? I do believe he's right. He would be the most realistic. However,
no,
that's not
I've.
entertaining. That's not
Mm,
entertaining. That's
mhm.
not
Well,
what I
it
signed up
depends
for.
because
My thing is though,
I
I
found
found
Oh no
him.
no no
this.
no.
I found
Oh
this
no no no.
very are the
Dave,
most down to earth movie so far, and
it
it's
was
like
too, but it
you're a
was
regular
too
dude.
down to earth. It
Yeah,
was too down to earth. It was to the point where I was like, I wasn't even. I didn't see him as James Bond. I saw him as, dude,
another
he's
double
just
O.
a guy. He's just another guy. You know what? He's 006. You know, he could be 006. He just had a really good run where he's doing well, but he's 006. He doesn't have those. That's the whole point of a James Bond character. And I mean, I'll get to this a little bit later, but I found that where they were like talking him up and they were like, oh, only James can do it, and like, oh, James is here, so
Just did
everything's going to
not
be
seem
fine,
like
right?
that dude.
And I was just like,
Just did not
he
seem
did
like
not
that dude.
inspire that confidence in me in any way whatsoever.
It's
Yeah,
interesting
at no
because
point he felt in control to me.
when I when I first watched these movies, I used to think Timothy Dalton was a cheap Pierce Brosnan,
Right.
and I think part of that as well. Pierce Brosnan was actually cast as James Bond before Timothy Dalton got the role, so I think he was always at a disadvantage from the get-go because people wanted to see Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. He had already got the part, but then what happened is the show that Pierce Brosnan was cast in, which was canceled, that got picked up by another network. So on the last day of contract, Pierce Brosnan lost the job because he was committed. He was under contract to do another season of Remington Steele, so the producers had to find someone else. So they found Timothy Dalton. So audiences weren't too warm on him, but I don't know what changed in this rewatch, but I really, really loved his performance.
I mean, yeah.
I prefer his performance over Roger Moore, which was insane. I would have said before that Timothy Dalton was low tier James Bond, but on this rewatch and especially in this movie, and I don't remember liking this movie that much. I remember liking License to Kill. I don't remember liking this movie this much, but on this rewatch, I really, really liked this movie.
So you
And
thought the opening was pretty solid then?
I thought the opening was solid. I really enjoyed the song. I think the song is top tier, not middle tier.
Oh, wow.
And I also liked the graphics. The opening titles are different than all of the Roger Moore ones, whereas before they were getting samey samey. And this one, like it or not, it's different. They use a lot more photo stuff in it, whereas like real items superimposed over the background. It's like a different technique they're using. So they're experimenting. It's not quite what we get nowadays. It's a different guy doing it nowadays. But it is interesting and is different, which I think is, having watched, this is the 16th movie we're on, it's refreshing not only to have a different James Bond, but to see a difference in terms of how they're approaching it too. It's more serious. It's not as campy. Even the opening titles are different. So yeah, it's funny, and we'll get to see who enjoys this movie or not. But this movie feels the most like From Russia with Love, like very classic espionage type of movie.
Right.
I can see it.
So whether you like that or not is personal preference, but
Right.
yeah.
So I think that you're gonna say, Chris?
Sorry, John. Yeah, I was just gonna say quick. Like, it wasn't so much like his line deliveries. I mean, I think his line deliveries end up being okay. Like, they're not as smooth as Sean and Roger, but as you said, maybe that's by design. But it was just really how he said Bond, James Bond. Like, that's an iconic big line. And in the beginning, he just delivers it like quick, like, what is your name? Bond, James Bond. And then he goes back to doing what he's doing. I'm like, bruh, nah. Like,
I think, Chris,
especially to a woman in the bathing suit as well. Like, it's Bond will not miss that opportunity.
It's you know what the thing is? It was a choice. We all make choices. That was a choice.
I think it's a pretty ballsy choice, though, because
it is a ballsy choice, but not all ballsy choices are good choices. Yeah, it takes nuts to, like, it takes some bravado to be like, all right, I'm gonna play it this way. But you know what? In the end, I'm watching this movie 30 years later. I'm not sure it stands up.
But I disagree. I think it does stand up because it's different, and it goes back to what I was saying about being realistic. If James Bond was a real person, he wouldn't say the name's Bond, James Bond, boom.
We're gonna get
pause for effect. He would say kind of like Lazzy. He would say
based on what happened.
Bond,
based on what happened, 007 is the best agent that they have. Right. Based on what happened in the training exercise, you see Timothy Dalton as the best agent that the British Secret Service could have.
I see him as way more capable than Roger Moore.
That's a no.
Oh God, no.
He's what? Nah. in terms of espionage and getting information, I don't see it.
No. But you know what? Dave has a point, right? But again, I'm watching a goddamn movie. He's not.
I'll point to one scene.
I'm gonna. No. Wait. Dave, put a pin in it because we're gonna come back to all of this stuff when we talk
Let's
about
closer to the
one-liners.
end.
I'm
It's
gonna
true.
give
It's
my
true.
I'm gonna give my thoughts in the opening. I actually thought the opening scene was really, really good. I did think that was refreshing. Happy to see. I think that say what you want about him. He looks like a James Bond. He's tall, dark hair. He looks like a James Bond, right? And Roger Moore, I actually don't think that he really looked like James Bond. I think that that's my problem with Roger Moore more than anything else. I don't think that he looks like James Bond, not the standard that was set by Sean Connery. Timothy Dalton looks like a James Bond, and I'll give him that. Any day of the week, every time that he was doing stuff, he looks very, not necessarily like a spy. He looks like someone in authority, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I definitely like just like from the beginning. I was like, yeah, he looks like a James Bond, and I'll give him his props for that always. The My one thing about the opening scene was that it felt kind of familiar. I feel like if the last Sean Connery movie, the one that we shall not really talk about, it reminded me of that a little bit, where there's sort of like they're breaking into something and he's kind of doing a training, and I don't know why, but it reminded me of that a little bit.
The opening scene too. So.
I can see that.
Yeah, it's not it, and it's not to
Oh,
say that
credits,
this
sorry.
was bad. I actually again, I think that it was pretty good, but it reminded me of that. It just felt very reminiscent.
It was
Um,
like they were showing the other guys how to do it right.
Basically, it was weird. But I liked it, and I actually think the opening for the movie was the strongest part of the movie. I really liked him going on the boat with the woman. Like that was, which is like the dumbest thing in the world. Where she was like, what was it? If only I could find a real man, and then fucking James Bond falls on her boat. Like seriously, come on, man. That was funny. I'll give them that. That was funny.
Classic James Bond move. Yeah.
I did not the song. I thought that what I thought of that song when I was listening to it. It reminded me of a throwaway rock band song that they would just include there, and you would play, and like you would have fun playing it, but like you wouldn't actually remember the words to the song. You wouldn't actually remember the song. It's just a thing. It's just a throwaway song that they put there. That's what the song reminded me of. Any No, I don't want to say lame. Any like middle of the road, like you said, middle of the road song, and just like throw it in there, and that would be the song. Um, the actual credits, you're right, Dave. They were different, but I didn't think that they were interesting. I actually thought they were quite boring. They did do different techniques and they tried different things, but I didn't think that any of it was particularly interesting. Maybe it's an art thing, where like an artist does something and they're like explaining the technique and the reason why this is so amazing. But for me, I was like, okay, I get it. I get that you put a lot of work into this, but is it interesting? Is it No, it's just boring. Then cool. And that's definitely how I felt about that. But since you guys were so excited for one-liners, it's a little bit early for one-liners, but give it to me. What was your favorite one-liner, Chris?
So it had to be when he is, I guess, helping the Bond girl. Her name is Kara. Is that right?
Kara, yeah.
Kara. And he's lugging around her cello, this big ass
Right.
cello in the case, and he turns her and tells her, "Why couldn't you learn to play the violin?" That one killed me.
I love the
I love
fact that
that.
you're forced. I love the fact that you're forced laughing because you know that wasn't that funny, but you needed to give a line. Cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was funny because
Yeah.
the thing is, I feel like he uses
It was
humor
funny.
as to
It was
get out his
funny.
aggression, which is why I was
Yeah.
like, most of the time he delivers lines, it's very like sarcastic. Like he's
Passive aggressive.
like whereas it's in Sean Connery and Roger Moore, like they're chuckling to themselves, but Timothy Dalton is just like, oh, all the time whenever he delivers a line.
passive
And I kind of
aggressive.
dig that. Like
But
with the, why couldn't you learn the violin? I love that.
But you know what? Dave? That's exactly the problem. And for me, these movies are a lot about joy. And in that moment, usually for a Sean Connery, especially for a Roger Moore, that's their way to be like, okay, you know what? This is a shitty situation, but I'm gonna make fun of it and I'm gonna have fun with it. For him, yeah, Ramon is right. It comes off passive aggressive, and he just like there's no joy in it. It's like that's a possibility to bring to connect with the audience and make it a happy, not happy moment,
And
but like a entertaining moment, and he just takes it all away.
Yeah.
And here's my moment to say it, like to add to that, is that right afterwards he's sledding down a mountain in a violin
Right.
case, paddling
In
like
a cello case, yeah.
that's supposed to be campy. It's supposed to be funny.
It's supposed to
It
be.
really
Absolutely.
wasn't.
It really wasn't.
It really wasn't.
That was really silly. I didn't like that part. I really didn't.
Which part was that again?
When there was going
on the
down the
cello.
mountain with the cello case.
Yeah. So what was
Like,
your favorite?
So all right.
Ramon?
See, I
So what was your
digged-
favorite line,
I digged
Ramon?
the cello.
My
was
favorite
your
line was actually when he was. It's been for those that don't know, we were on hiatus for quite a bit after Roger Moore, maybe a couple of weeks, and this was a moment to refresh and get into the new James Bond for me. But I found the best line was when he was smooth, like when he was being chased, got into the streets, saw the guys, and was like, okay, sees two girls in the car. They asked if he wants to party. Jumps in the car with them. Was like, all right, let's go. Halfway down the road, he's like, okay, I need to stop. I need to get out. I can give you guys some something to continue as a present. Thanks. They pull a gun on him, and he's like, oh, not enough. And he said it smoothly. Like that was reminiscent. That was reminiscent of Sean Connery or Roger Moore to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So that's my favorite line. Others?
That was a good one.
Yeah.
John, what about you?
What about you?
You go first.
Oh, okay. So to build on that, later on he delivered a line. I think it was not if the party is still on or something. Where they revealed themselves to be agents, and then he was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, because he actually smiled for that one. He actually gave a little smile, and it was a little bit. It was cheeky, and I thought that was, the line for me. I did not enjoy his lines throughout this movie, and my biggest example of that is when in the plane and Kara was like, what happened to him? And he's like, oh, he got the boot. And I was like, that line.
See,
that line. No. But here's the thing, though. That line.
It was a great line. It wasn't delivered properly.
He fucked it up. That line was brilliant. If that line in Roger Moore's hands would have been
gold.
Yeah,
golden, right?
I think I'm laughing at the way John delivered it. John delivered it even better.
Exactly. and I was really I actually rewind it, and I was like, wow, he just fucked that up, and it was the same way that you said, Chris, that in the beginning when he said the famous line, Bond, James Bond, right? And he was just like, Bond, James Bond. And I was like, oh, you barely even you're like, oh, so
why not? Yeah, why not just say James Bond? You don't need to say that again.
Right.
You could have just.
It felt like a premature ejaculation, honestly, where it's just it's like, oh, it just happened. Okay, cool. And that's the way that he delivered that line. He got the boot, and then they just switched off to him, and I was like, give me a second to appreciate this. You gotta say it a little bit slower. You gotta have a little finesse. So that I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah.
So I understand where you guys are coming from. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I know that he is criticized. Comedy is not his strong suit in terms of these movies. That being said, though, I still appreciate, because the way I'm looking at it is Roger Moore plays it as if he knows he's being filmed, because he is. It's a movie, right? I think how Timothy Dalton plays it is like, this is just something a guy would say just because he's a sarcastic bastard. Like, I think that's how he plays the humor. It's a very sarcastic, super dry,
Right.
and that is so not what we're accustomed to, so it rubs people the wrong way. But I dig it. It's not Roger Moore. Roger Moore will always win when it comes to the comedy. But
Right.
I do still appreciate what he does in this movie, and is like parts of it, like when he goes in and he's questioning Pushkin and throws him down on the bed, and he's like, I take this is not a social call, 007. And then he just says so aggressively and cold, like, this guy means business, and he's like, correct, you should have brought lilies. And it's just like, damn, that's cold, but it's funny. That is like a line. That's a fucking line. But
So I
that, but that's,
assume
but
that-
that's, but
I
that's
assume-
how. That's
was
how
that
he
your favorite
delivers.
line?
Well,
Was it
my
your-
favorite line was the boot. But
Right.
and then when he's being stupid with Kara with the car, because she thinks that he's a friend of
Right.
Koskov,
Jesus Christ.
right?
Whew.
And she is such an idiot. So
Yes.
he has a car with missiles, and he says he got a few optional upgrades, and he uses a laser to destroy the police car, and he tells her it's salt corrosion. And it's just the way he says it is like she's an annoying child that is like
Which she
questioning
was.
him.
No, she was.
And so he's just dismissing her. It's salt corrosion. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. It was not Roger Moore, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
But would you consider that a line or dialogue? Because at that point,
I
it's
would
dialogue.
consider it a line, because it's clear Roger Moore would have made it into a line.
A line.
Timothy Dalton's interpretation of it doesn't really have what we would consider lines like that. So, but it's still a line, I think. It's just how his interpretation of it.
I think it's fantastic that you have that appreciation on a case-by-case basis. And you were, although you've watched these movies a million times compared to the rest of us, like, you are still able to see it with new, like, appreciate it for what it is. Because I can't do that. I genuinely, like, I base every Bond after his, based them on their predecessors. And this is not working out. But now that you brought up Kara, what do you think about Kara? The Bond girl.
So,
I feel like if you kind of told us already how you feel about her.
well, let's see, that's interesting, because Kara is...
I'll stop you right there. I promise you, there's nothing interesting about her.
I disagree.
Okay.
I'll say one thing about Kara. Every other Bond girl that has been like Kara has been super annoying. Case in point, the last movie, what was her name? Stacy? Was Stacy in A View to a Kill?
Yeah.
She was in my opinion, the worst Bond girl. She was annoying. I remember when the blimp came and picked her up, and I was like, Bond, just let her go. Like, why are you gonna go try and save her? Like, all she does in the movie is scream at you, help! Fire, don't leave me! Whereas in this movie, yes, the Bond girl is oblivious, but it's played well. And also, I find, because the way that James inserts himself in. So the first time I watched this movie, I did not get how smooth he was when he did that. Yeah. Where he just played it off. Like, it went over my head because it was so friggin' smooth. Yes. And it was just like, he just did that on a whim. Like, he just put himself in that situation and adjusted himself so quickly that it worked.
What situation are you talking about again?
When he first meets her, and he doesn't know it. He doesn't know much about Koskov. He doesn't know Koskov is a traitor yet. He doesn't know Koskov did that. But he kind of just plants the seed, and then she tells him information. And then he just goes along with it, even though he didn't know that information before. It's so... Honestly, it's like miles beyond the writing that we've seen before. Like, it actually impressed me, and it's not what we're accustomed to. in James Bond, which is why I think it went over my head the first time I watched the movie. I was like really impressed.
Same.
So because of that, she is supposed to be oblivious, but when they are spending all that time together, and it makes sense plot-wise why they're doing it and why he's doing it, but I totally buy that he starts to soften up to her. Like, I actually buy into it. Like, she's annoying. She has this huge freaking cello. Why don't you have a freaking violin? Like, the scene where he's like, no, we're not going to go pick up the cello. And then right the very next scene, you see him picking up the cello. Like, I love that. I think that's hilarious. And it's like their relationship slowly builds. And I like it. I think it works really well. And yes, she's annoying. But at the same time, aside from the other annoying Bond girls, I actually like her. I find she's like endearing. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know if it's the actress that's playing it. I don't know why it works with her and it doesn't work with someone like Stacy or the girl from Trixie from Diamonds Are Forever, or some of the other ones that have just been terrible, like Goodnight and Man with a Golden Gun, because this is the kind of Bond girl that Cara is. But for some reason, she plays it off in an endearing way. Like, I totally get why Bond likes her.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah. I agree somewhat with what Dave said. She is oblivious. I don't know. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with her. Yes, she is oblivious in the beginning. And I guess it kind of makes sense because Bond does kind of trick her. But I think they do kind of redeem her character a bit in the end, because when, Bond is in trouble, or I think he's like going off by himself to tackle the Russians or whatever, and the Afghan soldiers are like, fuck it, fuck that guy. She's like, well, no, fuck you guys. I'm riding off to save him, like, if I have to, and so she kind of puts herself in danger to save Bond.
She was way over her head, though. She's an idiot.
Oh, yes.
Completely over her head. Yeah, completely.
But again, though, but she's also endearing, because she does put herself in harm's way, and that
Chris,
I don't know. She's like a little kitten. Like, you just wanna love her.
But Dave, that's okay. You know what? Yeah.
I'm waiting until my turn. I'm legit waiting until my turn.
She's a helpless kitten, man. I don't know. I like her.
I'm looking at your face, and I'm like, I'm so happy that Ramon's gonna get there before I do. Oh God, it's gonna be so good. Anyhow, yeah, carry on, Chris.
Yeah, no, you're right. She's completely over her head. I mean, it doesn't really work. Like, she can't really truly save the man, but at that point, she
can't really truly save herself.
The epitome of it is when Bond is escaping in the plane and she drives alongside the plane. It's like, woman, what are you thinking? And even Bond,
she's on the horse to herself, like in the middle of the battlefield, just like a deer in headlights.
Like, in so much of this movie, Bond is annoyed with her.
Do not even get me started in that whole section.
And Bond is visibly annoyed with her in so much of the movie, but I love that.
Yeah.
It's like that's what a husband and wife would do. That, like, the wife would be nagging the husband, and the husband would just be like,
absolutely,
woman, what are you doing? Why are you driving a van next to a fucking airplane?
Bond had a wife. Bond had a wife. Bond would never marry that idiot. He would no.
Yeah, Tracy did a far better job of inserting herself into the situation.
Right. But see, that's the difference. So Tracy took care of Bond. Like, that's why she was the wife of James Bond. But this plays to Bond being a protector. And like I said, she's like a helpless kitten.
So in my mind, it's not it didn't play off as a husband and wife situation. It played off as a grandfather and idiot child situation, where it was like, wow, like Darwinism should have taken you out a long time ago, sweetheart.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Anyhow,
I'll say, like, yeah. I mean, up until that point where she, rides off to save Bond, I was kind of like, man, this girl, I'm not on board with her as a Bond girl. Like, no offense to the actress.
No, she's gorgeous. She's absolutely gorgeous. She's
very
stunning.
cute. But yeah, up until that point, I was like, ooh, I'm not. But when she was like, yeah, I'm going to save this man. Like, I don't, fuck you guys. I'm going to save him. I was like, that's what I want to see. Like, I want to see that from my Bond girls. So that kind of redeemed her a bit in my eyes. And to comment on what Dave said about that scene where he, Bond first meets her, and he kind of just deceives her a bit. Like, she's talking to him, and
he does not deceive her a little bit. He straight up just lies to her the entire
but it's so
half of the
smooth.
movie.
It was so smooth because I think she even asked him, like, "Are you a friend of Koskov's?" And he's just like, "Oh yeah, I am. I am."
No, but was that smooth? Was that smooth, or was that literally just like she is so stupid that it's like
No, I think it was. I mean, I'm not doing it justice, but it was so smooth because of what Dave said. Like, it actually went over my head too, because I got confused at that moment. I was like, wait, what just happened there? And I had to rewind it, and then I was like, oh,
Yeah, because it's like you think that Bond knows exactly what's going on, but then
but he
because
didn't.
he didn't. So
Right.
that's why it's like it's how you trick someone
exactly.
into telling you information you don't have, and that's what
But
he was doing.
But there's a very big difference between tricking a child and tricking a grown adult. Because I feel like if he was just like he was like, oh yeah, I'm so and so's friend, or I'm this,
That's
and
Yeah,
then
but
and
again,
then he's
not
like,
going into that range,
and then literally all he had to do to like gain her trust was be like, it's just deflect, like look over there, and then she's like, she can't have two thoughts in her head at one time, so she's like, oh, I'm looking over there. What were we talking about again? Idiot. Absolutely.
I mean, I hear that, but I don't know. I think I'd have to disagree. I think I understood how she got tricked because it tricked me because it tripped me up. But
Chris, I really feel like
I'll let you go.
I really feel like if you should take that back. You're supremely more intelligent than that. Don't
I'm
no. Come on.
totally gonna agree because the reason you feel endeared to me, the reason you
Yeah,
feel endeared to her in any form of fashion is just because she seems like she's on training wheels, and so does Timothy. That's my
oh,
theory.
yo,
It's like you
Ramon,
look at it, and
Ramon,
when he
I
tricked
love
her, I
you.
was like, "But
Chris,
this isn't
this is weird. I don't like
smooth."
when they agree this much.
I know.
It's very unsettling.
I know.
I'm like, "This isn't smooth. This is like she's on training wheels, and you are." I don't know, you just taken off one or something like that. Like you just that it was so subtle because he was that
He was
he,
that good.
no he was just
Inexperienced.
that
He
little
was
above
so
her
ready.
really in terms of reaction. Like she's a child, he's maybe an infant,
Right.
and that's why it
Yeah.
seemed so smooth to me because I was like
It's
that
like
wasn't you could have done that a little bit better.
I hear where you're coming from, Ramon, and that's a very good comparison. Where it's like a 6-year-old tricking a 2-year-old out of their snacks, who is like, "Oh yeah, you want
Not even a
this
six, a
bag?"
4-year-old.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, man.
Because
Yeah, carry
if
on.
it was Roger Moore,
I want to hear all
Sean
this.
Connery would have been a problem with her in the times, of course.
Dude, yo, that is such a good point.
But
I didn't even think
Roger
about
Moore would have treated her like even more of a child. Actually, like I feel as if BB was more aware of situations than her.
No.
Totally,
Yeah.
yes.
Absolutely.
No.
Yes.
Absolutely
Yes.
not.
And
You're
BB
not
was
comparing her to
BB
BB.
was literally
BB was
treated
the
like a
worst.
child.
I
She should have been
forgot.
treated like a
I
child
forgot
too.
about BB. I forgot about BB.
You know the only.
Do not compare Kara to BB. That is
Do you
not
know-
doing her
She is,
justice.
You know the
she is a
only
lower
difference.
than BB to
No.
me.
Do you know the only difference between BB and Kara
She's
is
more
that
clueless.
BB was actually a sex fiend, which I actually found like, oh, so you're just like all about it, and that's your fault, right? Whereas Kara is legitimately just stupid. She is just like dumb.
So I give it that. Like this was supposed to be a down to earth Bond, and when I saw it, I was watching the movie. I'm like, oh, you found a really down to earth, like plain Jane Bond girl. All right, cool.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I like that she's a top musician, of course, but nah, she was just a child to me in this. Like, there could have been another Bond girl above her easily. Like she
I
could have been the
really,
baby of this. Actually,
I really wish that there was. I really wish at some point they like introduce her mother, and then you're like, Jesus Christ, thank you. I really wish that happened at some point.
yeah. Because even like as Chris said, like when she like marshaled the guys, all right, what are you gonna do? Let's go to help. I was like, oh, okay, she's got some more moves, and then that whole battlefield situation, and I'm like, woman, this is the stupidest thing ever. You help in the beginning and they tell you, all right, we'll come back for you, like stay on the outside, which you should have, because the only thing you did in that situation was stand like literally on a white horse in the center of the battlefield and get shot, got shot at, got the horse killed, then gets in the jeep and drives up to
Dude.
Bonds. At that point, I'm like, so what if this wasn't a cargo plane? What then? Do you? We're supposed to be going in the other direction. Like he can't help you right now, or he's in a tough situation where he shouldn't be able to help you. He was just lucky he did.
She did not think that through in any way, which again, not surprising.
Oh,
So,
better
John,
yet, he
what did
gives
you
her the
think
controls of
about
the
her?
plane and tells her to hold it steady. He comes back to the cockpit. She's driving into a fucking mountain.
Mountain, dude! Literally, all you have to do is look out the window and be like, "Is there anything in front of me?" No,
You
there's
see
a
movies
big mountain.
like do
I'm just
something.
gonna hold it there. Jesus Christ!
Yeah. So
You know what? You know,
I think she's the worst Bond girl just because it is so far along. They're so far along in the times. This is 1987. Like there's
right?
much more representation. You should be better. And I'm like, nah, this is literally like a beginning Sean Connery Bond. Like no. Not impressed.
John, what did you think?
I
I mean,
agree with
I
everything.
think we know
I
what you
agree
think
with
already.
everything that Ramon said. And on top of that, right? He told her to fly the fucking plane, right? To hold it steady. She not only is she driving it into a fucking mountain, right? My girl is pressing buttons for no reason. And I am just like, who tell you to press those buttons? What on that button said fucking press me? What? And she's just pressing buttons for no reason. Yo, she got me so upset, right? Throughout this movie. She made me so angry. I was just like, I really did not enjoy her character. And to echo what you said earlier, Ramon, I think that was a problem as well for me. In terms of she brought down his character. The great thing about James Bond is that he goes against a lot of interesting, smart characters. I think that supporting cast was an issue, and she was top tier an issue for me. She was from the very beginning when we met her. Slowly but surely she became less and less. I thought that she was pretty, and I think that like going back to the down to earth thing, she's like gorgeous, but she's not gorgeous in a I think her name was Melina. What was her name?
From 4 Years Only?
Yeah, Melina.
Yeah.
She wasn't like just stunningly gorgeous. She's, kind of a girl next door gorgeous. And I dug that. But then she started like interacting and talking, and I was just like, wow, you're stupid. I do agree. She's endearing. She's very endearing, but it's endearing in the way of like, oh, this puppy dog, you just want to take care of it, It's like, oh, honey, and you just want to like protect it from the world and make sure it's okay, and that's what Bond had to do. But I think that took away from me not respecting him, but me taking him seriously as well, because he should have just let Darwinism take care of itself, and like he would have had so many less problems.
I felt that way about Stacy in the last one. And BP. But not her.
I definitely felt that way, and because Dave, I think that you just carried on with the endearing thing. And I do think that she's endearing, but she's endearing as a detriment. I think that his job, he would have been able to handle this so much quickly, so much faster, if he was just like, all right, you're in over your head, right? I want you to just not do anything. Just stay here.
This is why
But I
don't
think
see him as a
that's
James
that's
Bond.
kind of the
Oh.
point, though, because she is way over her head.
Yeah.
She has no clue about. First off, she's not in over her head in the espionage world. She doesn't even know it exists. That's how oblivious she is.
Right.
But like, as just a normal woman,
Right.
she's an endearing. Like, I know I said it already. She's endearing, whereas someone like BB isn't endearing. If I met BB in real life, I would want to slap her across the face. Like, my patience would be tested. I would be like, no,
Like,
get the fuck away
no,
from
BB
me.
knew what she was about. She had a sponsor, and this
Right.
guy was sponsoring her
Stacey
to become a skate.
It's
No.
even worse with someone
Without
like Stacey or Tracy.
without actually having sex. Like,
No,
I don't
but
want to say
the
like,
other thing, right?
she got a sugar daddy. She literally played the guy to have a sugar daddy.
But
Like,
you know what the
BB
thing
But
is?
knows what
I
she's
don't
about.
respect that at all. Like, at least I can
But-
respect Kara. And then with Stacey and Tracy and Diamonds Are Forever and A View to a Kill, they
No, but I
introduced them
respect her
as
intellect and her
strong.
hustle.
It isn't even a hustle. In
It is a hustle.
Tracy
It
and
is a hustle.
Stacey, they introduced them as if they're strong characters, and they're not. At least with Kara, you know she's oblivious. You know she's way over her head. She doesn't try to be a strong character.
She does. She does.
No, but she
That's the
does
problem.
not. She totally does not. She
She
doesn't
rode
even
off
know.
after Bond
doesn't even
against the
know
Russian
Jay-
army.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's like
She stayed
so
on the battlefield
stupid.
when any sane person would have been like, "Well, I don't have a gun right now. Let me
Yeah,
hide."
but
I'm also
that's why
really
she's so
stupid, and I'm gonna get shot. And literally the problem is you know what? It's because she's so stupid. She really thinks that she's gonna get. She probably would get shot in one ear, and it would come out the other ear, and it would be fine. Like that's the fucking issue right here. So
That's
I hear what
wait,
you-
hold on. Like, what, say one more thing. Once again, that's my thing. That's what you see her as endearing. In my mind, Bond would have been far more aware of the situation and far more cognizant and far smoother to be the point where, like, all right, you are going to be a problem. You cannot help.
Yes,
You're
But-
far more of a detriment.
But I think that's
I need to
part of
put
it.
you in. I need to
But
take
He
you
needs
out of
her.
the situation.
She's
he
her
does not need
because
her.
she is his only way of finding out about Koskov and getting to Koskov. So I think that he felt the exact same way that you two feel about her. Like, you can see that in his face, and that's
And
why
then,
I
but
like it.
Dave,
Because
but
he
at no
doesn't
point
like her
does-
at first.
no point. At
but
no
Dave,
point does he seem
halfway
like
through
he's.
the movie.
He's using her to get
He is
to
using-
Koskov, and then
I don't really see that.
the only reason why at the end he's like thing is because she gets betrayed by Koskov too, which we saw coming because Koskov's a dick. We could use that to transition to Bond villain, but that's kind of why he then has to take care of her because now she's just the kitten, whereas before he was just using her, to be honest.
Again, but that's exactly the difference. Like Ramon said, right? In any other Bond before would have been like, yes, you are stupid. He did use her, but halfway through the movie, Dave, that should have been the point where she fucking exited the movie and we got
There's
our
only
Bond
there's
girl.
only one way that she could have exited the movie. He would have had to let her die. But
I
you
know,
saw,
really,
you saw,
but
yeah, but you
again,
saw.
At that
Dave,
point,
I've
you
said
talk
that,
to the
but I've
guys
said
and
that
tell them,
already.
take
No,
care
but
of
that's
her.
why they
I need
built
to
it
do
up.
this.
You saw that he started to care
that's-
for her. He started
that's-
like how you two started. Like, he just was like, oh my God, this bitch is annoying. But I need her to get to Koskov. And then slowly is like, oh, she's so annoying. She's so annoying. She's so annoying. Oh, but shoot, I actually have a bit of a soft
I
spot
like
for
to look
her.
at it this way.
And then when
I've
she's
compared-
in trouble,
I've
it's
compared her to
like
BB,
protector
Dave.
kicks in.
I've compared it to BB and how Roger Moore treated BB versus how this one was treated. Let's be honest.
Dave, but that's exactly
One's in
I-
control.
I-
The next one is not so much.
Dave, when I said that Darwinism should have taken over, I wasn't fucking kidding. I feel as if halfway through this movie, she should have died and we should have gotten a new Bond girl. Like she was seriously dead weight. And for the second half of that movie, she added nothing to it. And to talk to your point about like oblivious, like run of the mill normal person, I always come back to Honey Rider. I love this girl so much. Picking up fucking seashells on the beach, but then you become a fucking asset, right? This girl had potential to become an asset. At no
How
point did
was
she
Honey
ever
Rider
lose
an
herself.
asset at any point?
Throughout she did stuff.
Like what?
I'll admit.
Name one
I
thing
don't
Honey
remember
Rider
as much.
did.
I don't remember exactly, but I remember her being. She wasn't helpless. She was able to shoot a fucking gun. She was able to be like, oh, danger. Maybe I'll go over here.
I don't think she ever shot a gun.
She
She
hid.
was
I
she
can't.
She
was
had
I,
the
a
I
sense to
can't.
hide.
she was a
She had the
damsel
sense
in
to hide.
distress as well.
She was.
It's just she was in the movie for much smaller, and she made a damn good entrance. I love Honey Rider.
So what I will say is, again, I don't remember all of these movies the way that you guys do. I just remember me overall. I have always said that I found Honey Rider to become an asset. She started off in the stupidest way possible. She became an asset throughout the movie. She helped Bond as opposed to being a hindrance. She did not fly any fucking planes into any goddamn mountains and press buttons that she was not supposed to. This girl is an idiot. Kara is the worst. She's not my least favorite Bond girl because God knows Tiffany is rough.
Tiffany, right? I hated Tiffany.
And Goodnight is rough.
I still think the worst was the one from A View to a Kill because she was just obsessively annoying because she was screaming all the damn time.
But like you said, Dave, what do you guys think of the villains? What do you think of the villains, Dave? Who was the villain, Dave?
Well, I don't think we'll have as much of an argument here because I thought the villains were definitely the weakest point of this movie. Whitaker was a throwaway. Koskov was only interesting because he tricked the MI6 into thinking that he was leaving the KGB.
Right.
And I mean, he had kind of already left, so he was playing both sides like a double agent. That was interesting, but Koskov is kind of like a snob.
Yeah,
He was never really threatening. I think
Right.
Necros was typical, like from Russia with Love, the blonde villain.
Henchman.
Stereotype.
Henchman. He was henchman
Yes.
though.
He was definitely a henchman, but I thought he was a really good henchman. Like where he comes with the milkman and he's listening to music. So I enjoyed the henchman, but definitely the villains were the weakest part of the movie for me.
Ramon?
I actually kind of enjoyed them. Like the idea of the arms dealer and then the Russian who just decided, hey, let me take care of my superior, come back and sell guns. I like the idea. As I say, it was a down-to-earth Bond movie, and I think it was solid. I believed the Brad Whitaker as a main villain, and Necros once again great henchman. I thought definitely he's a scary person to go up against for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of enjoyed them. I like them. Solid villains to me. In a down-to-earth story.
In a down-to-earth story. In a story where you're not really going to get a villain. Sure. Chris?
Sorry. Me?
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what Dave and John said. I think probably Necros was the best out of the villains here, even though he was just a henchman. But the thing with Necros is like I'd seen this before, like with Grant in From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. But okay, so maybe that's a downside. Like, they're using over the same fucking things that they've done in the past.
Right.
But I felt he was like a really intelligent henchman. Like I think David pointed out the whole thing with the milkman scene. That was pretty cool.
The balloon thing as well. I thought the balloon thing was funny.
Yeah, I think Ramon had mentioned the balloon thing. That was pretty cool as well. And he was imposing. So, but Whitaker, I just thought he was just silly, stupid, with his little like model battlefield.
Oh Jesus
Like that
Christ!
was just retarded. Like not even a threat to Bond at all.
Listen, if you're a James Bond villain with toys, you're probably not going to be a good villain. Like
Hey. You
you're a
reminded
fucking
me a little
child.
bit of Goldfinger, just saying.
Oh Jesus!
I mean, and
Just not as good. Just not as good, but just a little bit. Just a little bit.
and with Koskov, I mean, I guess he was the real villain. I guess out of them, he was like the real main one because it was his plan. I guess to deceive everybody. But I think he's just not memorable.
I
You know,
loved when
like
they
Right.
put Koskov in the pod, and he was like, "How many times have you tried this before? You're the first one." Then he shuts it, and you just hear him screaming. He's ah!
yeah,
He had good moments, but yeah.
He did have good moments. He played Dum Dum very very well, and
yeah.
And
I
he
mean,
I'll
was
give
I
him
he was
that.
sucking up to James at the beginning of the movie, and James
Yeah,
was just like not having it. Like, why are you
yeah.
doing this? Something's off here.
James. Yeah,
I really liked that beginning in the beginning how he kind of tricked everybody because yeah, me fool.
Definitely.
And I was like, whoa, okay. So he played the double, he played the double agent really well, sort of. I mean, that was good, but I'm not gonna remember that guy. I'm not gonna remember
ever,
Whitaker and Koskov after this movie. Maybe I'll remember
ever.
that stuff.
What about you, John?
Take it or leave it.
I thought Necros was the only imposing character, bad guy throughout this movie, and he was just a henchman. My favorite like evildoer moment was when he killed James's friend with the sliding door. I was like, "Ooh, that was vicious." I
Yeah.
was like, "Wow, all right!" Like you like killed him, cool. You like cut him in half, all right. And that was the only point, and that was the only point. And they played the rest of them. They're like double agents, and his superpower, Georgie's superpower in this movie is he's a fucking charismatic liar, and I find that so pathetic. You know, of all that's the evil thing that you do. You fucking lie to people.
And also, he
Like,
just refused to die. Like
yeah,
he was in a car that crashed into a plane that exploded, and he still didn't die.
right. So essentially he reminded me of a cockroach, and I was just like,
Once
I
again,
was
good villains, best villains are they don't die.
no,
Still
but
die.
but he wasn't like, you know what he might as well have been. He might as well have been not Padfoot. What was the rat from Harry Potter?
Oh gosh. Oh my. How do I not remember this?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he was a rat from Harry Potter, and he just like, I wanted him to die, and he kept lying to people, and he kept switching sides and whatnot,
Scabbers.
and I was just like, Scabbers. Yeah, he was fucking Scabbers as far as I'm concerned. But so it's not, the problem for me wasn't just that I didn't like the bad guys, is that it was the James Bond had no one. He was coddling this idiot on his left, Kara. He was against these dum dums, Georgie. The stakes were so low that I was like, I mean, honestly, if the bad guys win, what's the worst that's gonna happen? A couple of different guns and drugs. I was like, if there was one time that James Bond could have lost, and I would really not give a shit, this might have been it. Like, there was nothing about this. Like, there was no point. So, about playing it down to earth, there was no point. There was no opportunity for James Bond to achieve greatness in this movie. And that is not depressing, but that is underwhelming, and
So
that
yeah,
was my biggest
'cause
problem. He didn't have to
I
outsmart. He didn't have to outsmart anybody. He knew from the very beginning that Georgie was full of shit. He didn't have to outsmart Kara because she's not intelligent. Like, there's no one here that he had to
So I
get
don't
around.
I don't fully agree. I think there was a couple of times where he was questioning whether or not Koskov was
Yeah.
thing. Like
Okay,
there was
what?
one there's one. Well, I'll wait to it. I'm giving my general thoughts actually.
No, well, I mean that's pretty much it for me because the stakes were low, because the villains were there are bad guys, but I didn't really sense a lot of danger from them. Um, there was no opportunity for me to be like, God damn, James Bond cool. Like, he did some cool shit in this movie. The coolest stuff that he did was like not fall out of a plane because someone kept pressing fucking buttons that they shouldn't be pressing.
Oh my god.
And my scene that I thought was the coolest was a guy literally getting killed by a sliding door. And I mean, like, for me that's cool, right? But there's not actually
You're
anything cool about that.
obviously missing Roger Moore.
I'm sad that I'm missing
I
Roger
am.
Moore.
I am.
I'm sad that
I'll
I'm
say
missing
it.
Roger Moore. I'm sad that I don't like Roger Moore. I didn't like Roger Moore that much, and I'm missing him as a result of what we've been given. It's sad. So yeah, Dave, you were talking. I think we've covered almost everything. So closing points.
I'll go last because I'll kind of summarize everyone's ratings.
Alright.
Okay. I'm just gonna jump in. I thought that this movie, I mean, I've given a lot of shit, but I thought this movie it's not the worst movie that we watched. It wasn't actually like intrinsically bad, but it felt like filler. This movie just felt like filler. And as a result, it was underwhelming. And do you want us to give ratings one time? Yeah,
Yep.
I thought
Yep.
this movie was a 4. I thought this movie was like just below okay. It was middle of the road that had a couple of potholes. It was a 4. What do you think, Ramon?
I'm totally gonna agree with you. This is definitely like the other Bonds for their first showings. They've
That's
had
the thing
amazing
that got me
movies.
as well. I was looking for like an amazing like first thing, like yeah, they're gonna come out of the gates like swinging, and they're gonna like put everything into this,
But
and
yeah, for your first
underwhelming.
Bond, you've
Yeah.
decided to just have the most middle of the road plot and stakes and Bond girl and Bond villains. It is very, very disappointing. That being said, um, I don't rate things lowly, very lowly. If I was entertained through it, sure. It
Were
had a
you
plot
entertained?
twist.
Were
It
you
had a plot
entertained,
twist.
or were you just watching it? You're like, oh, okay, that happened, cool.
It had a plot twist, and it's sad. But once again, that line that he delivered on like in the car, I was like, oh, I'm. It's been a while, but I'm still reminiscent of a smooth Bond, and this was just middle of the road at best. Like that's what they set out, and that's what I gotta get it. I'm not gonna give it a 4 like John is. I'm gonna give it a 5 because I
Oh
guess
well,
I
I thought you
was.
were gonna give it a 6. I thought that you were gonna like give it a little bit higher. Cool, nice.
Are you gonna rate it above or below For Your Eyes Only and A View to a Kill?
Don't do that now. We'll do that
Below.
later.
Well, no, we always do the ranking first, and then we revisit after we finish the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah, below. I did actually enjoy it, which is a good one.
All right, Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo a lot of what Ramon and John said. Yeah, for first movie for Timothy Dalton. So overall, I think Timothy Dalton was a good Bond. Smooth, well, okay, suave. He had presence. He's kind of like and I read this. I think I read this in a comment. I think on one of these videos I was watching. Somebody was calling him a good precursor to like Daniel Craig. of a more like gritty type Bond, and I could
Right.
see that. And I think he does
Okay.
that really, really well, like a more rough type of Bond. Uh, so with that said, I think then the movie kind of falls down because there really isn't a lot of humor, which is fine. Which is fine. Um, I do like more serious Bonds, but you have a Bond girl that's kind of underwhelming, and you have villains that really don't truly seem like threats to Bond in the end, and it's very low stakes. So I think I'd agree. It's kind of middle of the road for this movie. So I'd give this maybe a 6.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. I'll let you.
All right. Well, clearly I'm the odd one out here.
I know.
So before, I would have 100% agreed with you. I didn't remember this movie too much. I was excited to get into Timothy Dalton because of his second movie, License to Kill, which I've always liked. This movie, I was like, yeah, I was soft on.
One thing though, Dave. Right? I have to say, I don't think that I've ever watched this movie before. Maybe I missed that Bond night. I did not remember one shit from this movie.
Well, I mean, if I ask you in a year, maybe you still won't.
I mean, maybe
Maybe you remember the
oh,
other bad ones that you've rated lower because of how bad they are. This is
I
just
think
forgettable in your mind.
I just love the fact, right, that you brought up From Russia with Love, and I was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. This is they're similar, right? So I wouldn't like this. Cool. Anyhow, carry on.
This for me is so similar to From Russia with Love. If there's any movie that it feels in terms of thematically the most like,
Right.
it is From Russia with Love. Even the Bond girl, you hated the Bond girl in From Russia with Love. You hated Tatiana. You hate Kara. They're both kind of similar in terms of just being way over their head.
Not wrong. You are not wrong.
But so when I was rewatching this movie, I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. I loved the intro. I thought it felt fresh. I loved going into the movie. I loved Timothy Dalton's portrayal of Bond. I didn't appreciate it before, but I appreciate it way more now. And when we go through the series, we'll like rank all the actors and everything. For me, I rank him already above George and Roger, which is surprising to me because I love Roger. But
Blasphemy.
Wait, I'm
I-
sorry.
Blasphemy.
Wait. Start out. What? I didn't hear
Wait,
that.
what movie?
well, I've seen both, but yes.
Oh, okay, fair.
Wait, no. You need to repeat that. What?
So far of the actors that we've seen play Bond so far, I think Timothy Dalton is only second to Sean Connery. I enjoy his
We
performance.
got to see the
that
second
much.
movie. We got to see the second movie first.
I enjoy his performance that much. Like that's how much I enjoyed his performance so much in this movie. How he played certain scenes. There's two scenes in particular that I just can't see any other actor pulling off. There's the scene, your favorite scene, John, where the sliding door kills the agent, and at that point, that is just before then you start to see Bond, where he's starting to get like he's starting to soften up to Kara, and then that happens, and then he just completely shifts, like it's like a switch. He just goes completely cold-blooded, and like he becomes so cold towards her. It's like he's pissed at himself for softening up that much. So I loved his performance. And then there's another scene where he's questioning Pushkin, and he's so cold-blooded in that scene. You would never have seen Sean Connery or Roger Moore or George
This is where
play
I
it like
beg
that.
to differ.
Like
because
he is vicious. Like I would actually be scared to piss him off. I wouldn't be scared of any of the other actors that played Bond. He would scare me. He's a cold-blooded killer. He's a secret agent.
So
Ian Fleming
we didn't-
described him as a blunt instrument.
You remember that that I can't remember which movie it was, but where I think it was Roger Moore, where like he's literally talking to the woman in like the bathroom or whatever, and he's like, okay, you need to tell me what's going on now, or like he was menacing at that point in time.
Right. Yeah,
All
you're
of them
right.
could have done that, and I think
I don't
better than
think
he
so.
could have.
I think Sean
It's
I
just
Connery.
think
that
there
wasn't
have
their
been
plan.
I think there have been moments where Bond is supposed to be menacing and felt as a threat because he's James Bond, but I don't think any scene up to now carried the weight of when he was dealing with Pushkin. Like I feared
So
for Pushkin. And there's another scene where it's like this guy is just completely off the rails because Pushkin puts the like the alarm thing on his watch, and so the guy outside is coming in, and Bond rips the woman's shirt off so that she's topless, and it distracts the guy. Like that's such a he doesn't even think about it. There's no
Hesitation.
there's no hesitation, there's no flair to it. He's not doing it for a laugh. He's not doing it like why Roger Moore would do it. So as oh, this is a funny thing. He just does it because it is the most effective way to get this shit done. Like he's just
so
a blunt instrument, cold-blooded killer, and that's what James Bond is supposed to be. And he is the most successful thus far of playing it in that way, which is why I enjoyed his performance so much. Daniel Craig kind of touches on it. I know, Chris, you mentioned that. It's like a precursor. I just really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
I
And the thing is, he's not so cold-blooded where he doesn't have character, because I think the reason why Kara, I think, works in this movie is because he is so rough. She softens. She is like the polar opposite of him, and it brings out like the human side of him. So that's why I enjoyed it. And she isn't trying to be like Triple X or Holly Goodhead or a character that can carry herself. She's way over her head. But it works for me. In this movie, I don't know why, but it works. I don't think
I
this is a middle of the road James Bond in the slightest. For me, it is top 3 so far. I'm rating it a 9.
wow. So I hear what you're saying, and I don't think that we need to convince you that you're wrong, even if you are. It's a situation where I get your reasoning. I just don't agree with it. And I think that you're grasping at straws with Kara. But one thing that you mentioned was the Pushkin scene, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I actually think that Sean Connery would have done a better job there, personally.
I agree.
And
Sean Connery
the
has done a
thing
scene like that. The scene that
he
reminds me the
does
most of that is Dr. No. But I think
exactly.
there's only one scene that Sean has pulled off in that kind of intensity, and it was in the very first James Bond movie. And since then, he's never had that same kind of intensity in a scene like that. It's never been written in that way,
Although
and
when
it's never
And
been
I
Korea in
think
For
delivered.
Russia with Love.
It's never been delivered in that way. And even in From Russia with Love, the only scene I can recall Sean pulling off like that was when he killed the first guy he killed in Doctor No, when he sneaks in the room. And I remember that was my favorite one-liner and my favorite scene in that movie because of how cold-blooded it was. But we never saw that again. Even in Sean
yeah,
Connery, he always played the kill for laughs. He'd be like, "Oh, I think he got the point. Oh, positively shocking." Uh,
I don't think he always did the kills for laughs.
he totally did.
I
Even
but I
Sean
do
Connery
think
did.
no, dude, no.
Name one person
Sometimes he
Sean
kills.
killed that didn't come with a big funny one-liner at the end.
Obviously, you remember more deaths than I do. Like when you say stuff like that, it's just not going to prove your point because it's not based off of the fact that he never did it. It's based off of my lack of remembering what happened. But I think, like you said, Sean did have that intensity in Doctor No. I think that Sean could have pulled that off if that's what he's going for. It's all about choices. I think that Sean just didn't make those choices anymore. One and two, I really didn't like the way that he treated the girl. I know that you're like ruthless killer, blah blah blah, right? But I didn't enjoy that scene at all.
But
I
see, it's
get why
funny
you
that
enjoyed it.
you don't enjoy that scene, but then Ramon was pointing out another scene where Roger Moore treats another woman like crap. But for me, that was worse because it was just Bond and the woman in the room. So in my opinion,
Right.
he didn't have to treat the woman like that. In this situation, someone's coming in to kill Bond. So he has to do whatever he needs to do to survive. So I totally get why he did that to this
But
woman.
it's not. But
And he
it's
didn't
not
hurt
just
her in
about.
any way. He just ripped
But
her top off.
it's not just about that. I'll be honest. What we've seen so far, that scene just felt very out of character. With the Doctor No thing, we were now getting into the character, and I was like, this is how he is early on. And I feel like if he's developed over that time, I get that, this is a new Bond and, they're kind of new rules, but it really did just feel out of place to me.
That's
Because
interesting because it didn't feel out of place for me at all.
it felt so out of place for me. And it just felt like, too, like, dude, like, that's not how you handle your problems, you know?
That's one thing.
But
I saw it as something that Sean Connery would have done and probably done better. In my
I
opinion.
think
Or
I
more
do I do believe I still say what I said. Like I do think that Sean had that ability within himself because we've seen him do kind of ruthless things. But at this point, 16 movies in, it fell out of place for me. I didn't like it. It wasn't about what he did necessarily. It was just like that just scene just felt weird. I wasn't a fan. But yeah, anyhow. But that's your rating. You gave it a 9.
Yep.
Interesting.
So average score, it is not middle of the road. It's actually bottom of the road based
Oh,
on the
Chuck.
average score. We have it below You Only Live Twice, but at
Good.
least it's not as
God.
bad as Moonraker, Man with a Golden Gun, A View to a Kill, or Diamonds Are Forever, but it's literally just a slither above the worst Bond movies based off how it was rated. And that's with a 9. Like, no other movie that's been given a 9 has come this... Well, actually, no, sorry. I
Moonraker.
forget Moonraker. Ramon gave Moonraker. So, you know what? This is my Moonraker. This is my Moonraker. I'm
This
quite
is
happy to...
your Moonraker.
That's
for
fine.
me,
I know what it means.
This is top tier for me. I enjoyed this so much. Yeah, so I'm giving it a 9.
I think that's so interesting because I found it like there were parts where I was legitimately just bored. I was
I
just
mean,
like,
Yeah.
when I checked the movie and I was like 2 hours and 10 minutes, I was like, you could have made this an hour and 30-minute movie, and it would have been great.
That's why I also mentioned, like, when Bond has proper pacing, the Cap and Bond being smooth, being witty, that breaks up the monopoly sometimes.
Right.
This didn't have any of it.
Yeah.
And that's what
Alright,
yeah,
guys.
that's what happened.
I mean, I'll just say quick, like, I mean, I think I do agree. I think his Bond was played really well. I think I like his Bond, the more serious type. I think I just had an issue with his line delivery. Which, even though it was intentional, I think he should have done it
Oh,
differently.
but speaking of that, right? What did you think about when he ordered a martini?
I do not remember that actually.
Yeah, because they were asking him, "Oh yes, you want a martini?" Essentially, I think it was like they were asking him if he wanted a martini, and then he was asking them like a question like shaken, not stirred. Like he's asking them like, "Yeah, you can do it that way." And I was just like, "Wow, you are just like
He didn't-
not delivering these lines."
He just never seemed like that person or that one in control to me, or that one,
You know,
or that
Yeah.
smooth. Maybe it was a supporting cast where like you didn't have to sharpen yourself at the point in time, but he just fell flat, very flat to me. Like too middle of the road to be like, I don't see you as a secret agent. You could be a supervisor.
you could literally like quit the Secret Service and just like have babies with Kara and just let them be like. You can just live your life.
No, I think I'd have to go with Dave more so on this one. Like I think he did maybe play a pretty decent line. I don't think it was really middle of the road. I think
So if he went to a ball, you feel as if he would get information out of someone.
I'll show you.
yes, yeah, because I think he had a presence and like very serious, cold type of demeanor.
No one's talking to that person. No one's giving that person information. You look like a plant. Like he didn't seem to adapt when he went to the places. It was just like, oh, you the police or something like that.
Interesting.
I love that analogy. Anyhow, what is the next movie coming up?
The next one is License to Kill, Timothy Dalton's second and last movie.
Second
And the
and
last
final movie.
movie of the 80s.
Oh, is it going to be 80 full? We'll see. All right, guys, signing off. We will see you next time.
See ya.